Welcome to Finding Forgiveness, a family fairy tale podcast. Join host Susan Gibson as she summons the courage to ask the hard questions, probes deep, dark secrets, and attempts to fill in the gaps while exploring the relationship between her and her mother. Discover the magic of self-discovery, relationship exploration, and the profound journey of forgiveness. Now, your host, Susan Gibson.
Hello, this is Susan Gibson, and you're here with me for my podcast, Finding Forgiveness, a family fairy tale. Have you ever realized your time with someone was coming to an end, and in that moment, something life-altering happened that made you wish you had many more years to come together? Today's episode is about the last few weeks of life with my mother. And it all started the end of August 2021. My partner Siraj and I had spent the month of August in South Florida, close to my mother, and we made the decision to rent an apartment a few blocks from her. And we kept it a secret until we had everything ready to go, and we surprised her with that on August 28th, 2021. She was so surprised. She was beside herself. And she said, when I'm feeling better, I'm going to come and visit. And my mother had suffered with rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, and congestive heart failure for about 30 years, and had been many years without going outside for any kind of social interaction. But her wishes were just phenomenal. And I knew in her heart she believed that would happen. But what actually happened was, in a matter of days, her health declined dramatically. And one thing that had happened to her over the years with rheumatoid arthritis is she would get these flare-ups, what she called flare-ups. And they were excruciatingly painful. She did very well to manage herself, manage her pain, manage her medical needs. And she had an extremely strong will and a high tolerance for pain. But these flare-ups would come, and I had never experienced them. But she would tell me about them. And she said, whenever it happens, I holler loudly. And it makes me feel better. But I holler all sorts of crazy and wild things until the flare-up is over. And I know others who had experienced them with her, and they were definitely kind of bewildered by what was going on, and kind of taken by surprise as well. And I'm saying all of this because that helped to prepare me. Her telling me these things helped to prepare me for what was coming next, because she had a major flare-up of her rheumatoid arthritis and never recovered. And it started with the loss of mobility. She'd been walking with a walker for many years, and she had big toe amputated a year prior, and she had just gone through surgery to remove a second toe on the same foot. And so her mobility was limited because of her rheumatoid arthritis, but she could still manage to get around. But when this flare-up happened, she was down. She lost all mobility in her legs, and she had slowly lost mobility up to that point in one arm. She could no longer lift it by her muscle help. So she was left with one arm that she could actually move in terms of limb mobility. And she always had the best spirit, optimistic outlook, and helped me enormously for everything that was coming up next. And so 1 week after that, she said, it's time for me to have a hospital bed in my apartment. And I said, okay, we'll do it. She had a 1-bedroom apartment, and she had always slept on the sofa. she always would say, I have the only 1-bedroom apartment that has a spare bedroom because her bed was a sofa. And so made arrangements to move out the sofa. And in the same conversation, she said, it's time to initiate hospice care. And I kind of did an intake of breath, like, and she said, no, it's okay. Hospice isn't always end of life. Some people are in hospice for years. I said, okay, all right, let's initiate hospice care. And so I spoke to the church administrator, a very dear friend of my mother's, and they'd been friends for a very long time, and she and I are friends. And she said, I've had experience with Vita, excellent hospice agency in South Florida. So I called them. They immediately sprang into action. They had a hospital bed delivered the next day and started having staff come by and for various reasons to start to assess what was going on with Mom and start to formulate a plan for her. She was also getting nursing home care, or home care nursing, I should say, because of her toe that had been amputated. I also realized that very soon she was going to need home care that I couldn't provide for her, that was beyond my ability. And she and I had been through that a year previously when she had her big toe amputated, and I had worked with an agency to provide home care, 24/7 home care. And so we went through the list of women who had been there previously, and she said, this is a short list. And I contacted the agency, and one of them was available and could start in a couple of days. So I felt good. However, I was concerned with the deterioration of Mom. And, because she had lost all mobility, she had stopped eating, and she was already very small and frail looking and, less than 90 pounds. So she couldn't really afford to miss meals and not eat. And that also impacted her ability to take her maintenance medication for her rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, and congestive heart failure, and in particular, her pain meds. And the deterioration just escalated. And in a matter of days, once hospice had started coming, she started hollering. And because she had told me that's what she did when she felt extreme pain and it made her feel better, I felt prepared for it. What I wasn't prepared for was that it didn't stop. And she would holler and holler, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me, at the top of her lungs. And it didn't matter who was there. It didn't matter who was trying to give her care and comfort. It was this litany, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me. And she would still have moments of clarity and calmness and quiet out of sheer exhaustion, I'm sure. And in one of those moments, she said to me very quietly, she said, there are 3 people here with me. And I said, Mom, do you know who they are? And she said, one is Mom, which is her mother, my grandmother, Grammy. And she said, I don't know the other 2. I'm not able to see them. But Mom is sitting here next to me quietly. And she looks the way she did when she was younger and healthy. She had passed away many, many years ago. And I knew exactly the image she had in her mind. Grammy, standing there in the house in Maine and with her house dress on and her apron on over it, always ready for whatever next task was up, always ready for a quick story, a little bit of gossip, a cup of tea, something going on within the family to talk about. I knew exactly who was sitting next to her and how she looked. And I said to Mom, you must find that's so comforting to have Grammy there with you, be surrounded by your loved ones. She said, yeah, it is. And then the hollering would commence. And in the moments of quiet, Mom would have this very small voice saying, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. Yep, I'm okay. And I knew in those moments she was talking to her mother and assuring her that she was okay, that she was okay. And as the hours progressed and the hollering continued, she started hollering out for her father and her sister. Help me, Daddy. Help me, Daddy. Help me, Daddy. Help me, Daddy. Help me, Anella. Help me, Anella. Help me, Anella. Both of them had died so very long ago. Her sister more recently, her father when I was just a very small child. And so I believe those other two people with Mom in this moment were her father and her sister, and asking them for help to ease where she was in her end of life. This went on for a few more days, actually. And by that time, the caregiver had started, and I had left for a while. And when I came back, Mom had been in a period of quiet and calmness, and the caregiver was able to get her just looking so beautiful, and a fresh nightgown and fresh blankets, and had gotten her to eat something, liquid form, of course, but eat something, and could take some of her pain meds as a result of that. She was just looking so beautiful. Mom, you look so beautiful in that moment. And I helped her get you back into bed, and then the hollering started again. And that night, caregiver said, I can't take this anymore. I can't take this. And she said, you've got to call hospice and have somebody come. I did it right away. And I said, can you please stay until they arrive? And she said, no, I cannot. I cannot take this environment, this suffering. And I said, okay. I was very upset, but I thanked her for being here, for taking care of Mom in the time that she was there. And I came by your bedside, Mom, and I said, it's you and me once again, just the two of us, and we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. She knew my commitment. I had always committed to my mother as soon as her diseases started to get diagnosed, and we started to understand what was coming, that I would do everything in my power to take care of her and to keep her home for as long as was possible. And I knew at that time, we were going to have to take her to the hospital. She hated riding in the ambulance, and she hated going to the emergency room, but she also knew there were times when you just had to do it. And so when the hospice nurse arrived, it was in the night. And of course, he brought morphine and other things to help assess what was going on. And he instructed me on how to administer morphine, and we started and administer a dose, and he would time and take all the vitals and observe what was happening, and nothing was changing. The hollering just continued. Help me, help me, help me, help me. Help me, Daddy, help me, Anella. And so 15 or 20 minutes, he would ask me to administer another dose. Again, 15, 20 minutes, another dose. And this went on, maybe 4 or 6 doses. I have lost track of that, but it was a number of them. And finally, he said, do you think you should call the emergency room? And right away, I said, yes. And he said, okay, there's a hospital that's in your mother's network, not the one she usually goes to, but there's one. It's a bit farther away, and I want you to ask the EMTs when they arrive to take her there. And it's quite far, but it's across the street from a brand new hospice facility, and we have beds there. It's brand new. And I did exactly that. The EMTs came, they assessed the situation. I shared with them all of her legal documents, which I'd learned that's what they need to see right away. The healthcare directive and powers of attorney. And I said, this is where I want you to take her. They said, it's not the closest. I said, I understand that. However, she's under hospice care and the facility is directly across the street, and this is where she needs to go. And so they obliged. You went into the emergency room, still hollering and hollering. Thankfully, it was a very quiet night. You were able to get a private room. They hooked you up to the monitors, and I'll tell you, those emergency room nurses and staff have nerves of steel. All the beepings of monitors going off all the time, and your relentless hollering. Oh my goodness, I had no sleep, and you had no sleep, and we both were exhausted, and I was just pacing and pacing and pacing. Nurse would come in every once in a while and check on you. Couldn't give you anything until they knew what your physical situation was. I respected that. You and I had been through this several times in the past 30 years. We knew what was happening and what to expect. And after some time, few hours, nothing happens fast unless you have a life-threatening situation. They said, we have a bed upstairs and we're going to move your mother there. And then a representative from hospice will come, assess her, go through the paperwork to get her checked in and transferred from the hospital to hospice. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So I, let my close circle of supporters and caregivers for me, let them all know what was going on. And we moved up to the room. Beautiful room, private room, lots of sunshine, could see outside. And, you had your moments of clarity, Mom, moments of hollering. You were able to start to take some pain meds, and that certainly helped. And you and I could have our quiet conversations throughout the few hours it took to get you ready for the next move. And I'm always so grateful when I reflect back on these times together, Mom. It's those quiet times that I just cherish. The times was you and I talking quietly to each other. I cherish those. Every single day, I cherish those. It came time for you to move. The hollering started again. And this new team of EMTs, every time they touched you, you hollered. And I finally told them, she's in a lot of pain. You're going to cause her to be in pain. She's going to holler very loudly, but we have to move her. We have to move her. So I just ask you, please, just be as quick and gentle as you possibly can. But let's get her moved over to hospice where she can get settled in. And so they did. And you also said, thank you. You've always been so gracious to everybody trying to take the best care of you possible, Mom. And even in your moments of extreme distress, you always were grateful to everybody around you and trying to assure all of us that you were okay, We got you to hospice, short ambulance ride across the street, and the team welcomed us, got you settled into this big, beautiful room. Lots of light, just amazing. So peaceful, so tranquil, so comfortable. And the doctor, palliative care doctor, told me our number one priority is pain management. And I said, oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. They understood what my mother was going through. They understood the pain she felt every single day from her diseases, and they understood how to take care of her in the last remaining time that she had on this earth. I will be forever grateful for that experience that we all shared together. And your friends started coming by to see you, and there was a beautiful Zen meditation room right across from your room. And I would go and sit in there while your friends came to visit. And throughout that day, once you got settled and everything, you started thankfully, the hollering around pain subsided. They had worked out the right combination of pain medications so that you could be quiet and calm, get the rest that you needed as well. But you started this up, 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 up. And you were in a hospital bed thinking, well, do you want your head up? Do you want your feet up? I mean, you didn't have the mobility to be able to do these things yourself. Up, up, up. And that evening, your friend Mimi came by, and I could hear the two of you talking quietly and joking and having a good conversation. As always, you loved meeting with your friends and gossiping about everything that was going on around the community. And I could hear the two of you just talking quietly. And finally, you hollered out, if Gary were here, he would get me up. And I thought, oh, glory, hallelujah. We now know what up means. You wanted to get up and go home. So after Mimi left, I went and talked to you and I said, Mom, I know you want to go home. I know. I wish you could be home, but you need to be here for at least a few days. And then, we can see what's going to happen next. But I'm not able to take care of you at home, and I'm not able to get the care you need at home. This is the best that I can do for you right now. And she understood that, absolutely. And I called Gary, our cousin, and next day he came to see you, had an excellent visit with you. And that afternoon, you were very quiet. And one thing that the hospice had told me, and actually I'd read one of their pamphlets when I was sitting in that Zen meditation room, that we need to tell our loved one in hospice that it's okay to let go, that you're going to be okay without them. And so that afternoon, that's what I told you, that you had prepared me to the best of your ability for the life that I lead, and that it's okay for you to let go, that I'm going to be okay. And I left you that evening. And I could have stayed. They had a beautiful place there. But, if you knew that I was staying overnight, you would have worried yourself about me because of my insomnia. You are always concerned about me getting enough sleep, the right kind of sleep. You knew I would not have slept in that place, and I needed to be home. I needed to be home with Siraj at night. And so when I came back the next day, again, you had a quiet day together. And in that afternoon, this young woman came with a guitar, and she said, I'm a music therapist, and I see that your mother is sleeping, but I'd love to come back and sing some songs with you all. And I said, well, she may be sleeping. She may just be resting. She kind of goes in and out of consciousness, but she loves music, as do I, and we would love to hear some music. And so she asked me, what kind of music does your mother like? And I said, oh, she loves all kinds of music, but maybe some folk music, maybe a spiritual song, something like that. She would enjoy very much. So this young woman sang a very beautiful song. I didn't recognize it, but it didn't matter. It was very, very beautiful. And the next song she sang was 500 miles from home. And I thought, oh my goodness, Mom, you are far from home. You're far from home in South Florida. You're even farther from home where we both grew up in northern Maine. And this song was just so fitting, a song about coming home. And that afternoon, after that, the palliative care doctor came in and said, your mother does not have much time left, I can tell. She said, I'm not going to disturb her for a full examination, but I can tell by the shallowness of her breathing that she doesn't have much time left. And I thanked the doctor so much. And when I was getting ready to say goodbye, you woke up, a moment of clarity. I was holding your hand, standing by your bedside, and you said to me, I'm sorry. I had waited a lifetime to hear that from you. I had waited a lifetime. And in that moment, I didn't need to or want to ask why had all these things happened between us all these years, 50 years plus at that point. Why? It all just melted away. And I realized in that moment, forgiveness. And I said to you, Mom, I know you're sorry. And I wouldn't have traded one moment of our life together, because every one of those moments has brought us to this moment right now. And this moment right now is the most important moment of our life together. And I said my good nights, that I love you so much. And later that night after midnight is when I received the call that you had passed away. And that's what's important. It's not time. It's not going back to something. It's not what's coming next. Forgiving ourselves and each other in any given moment is what's important. I invite you to look deep into your heart and search for that moment of forgiveness. Forgiving yourself and forgiving others is the ultimate gift of loving kindness we can give ourselves. If you'd like to share your moment of forgiveness with me, please do so at hellosusan@findingforgivenesspodcast.com. Thank you for being with me today and listening to my podcast, Finding Forgiveness, a Family Fairy Tale. I welcome your comments. Until next time, I'm Susan Gibson, signing off with gratitude and appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Finding Forgiveness, a Family Fairy Tale podcast. To continue the conversation, visit findingforgivenesspodcast.com and send an email to hellosusan@findingforgivenesspodcast.com to share your story. Until we meet again.